Hi knitters, welcome to PJKnits. My name's Penny and I live in Central Illinois, and I'm a knitter, a blogger, and a YouTube podcaster. Thank you for tuning in to my every so often knitting journal here, where we talk about knits and yarn and all kinds of wonderful things as well. I'm going to try today to just kick back and take it nice and slowly and not try and rush through it. Today is Friday, November 24th. It's the day after Thanksgiving in the States. And for me, years ago when I started my working career, I worked retail for a long time before I went to the college to work. And the Friday after Thanksgiving was always the day that we kicked off our holiday shopping in the department store and in the smaller shops I was in, and then into the department store, a local department store in Illinois. And that meant that it was full on weekends, a lot of getting out into the various stores across the state of Illinois. And so Friday mornings after Thanksgiving, I was up and out and probably in the stores by 6 o'clock. And so ever since I stopped working retail, the weekend after Thanksgiving has just been my weekend. I refuse to go out and shop. One time we did go out with my mom and Bob and the kids, and there was an accident on the way and we just missed it. And that was the end of my going out and even venturing out. So I never was one of those that would go out and do the Black Friday shopping. You know, lately as we got to the internet, then if I was doing Black Friday shopping, it was via the internet. And I did happen to shop for one thing this morning that came up on Instagram, and then I had to get moving. So one never knows what I will find for Black Friday via the internet. But anyway, so ever since then, I have been one that just stays home this weekend, and this is my weekend to do that. And I thought I'll just do a little video here. It could be a little long video because we're going to talk about the Hap-A-Long as well. But I have a few things to talk to you about. So today the weather is semi-sunny out here in Central Illinois, and we're going to get maybe up into the high 30s the next week. This is probably going to be our weather in the mid 30 range here in Central Illinois. And we'll have some sunshine, you know, forecasting a little bit of snow on Sunday, but you know, in Illinois, when you look out the window, if it's snowing, then it snows. But so anyway, it's supposed to be a little windy day. I can see out my window here that it's pretty windy. But lately, I don't know about you guys, but we've had quite a bit of wind, it seems like, in the last couple of years that has been in Illinois. So it's not unusual. Most of the leaves are off of my trees. There's still some of those other trees that have some leaves. So anyway, let's get started with some knitting thing. I got a lot of things I want to talk to you about today. First up, I want to talk to you just really quickly. I want to share some things that my knitting friends gave me for my birthday. And these are all knitting related. And not only my knitting friends, but my son and daughter-in-law as well. And so I'm doing my show notes now from now on when I'm sitting here talking to you into a notebook that my friend Brenda gave me. So I will be using that, and it is kind of my cheat sheet because I can't remember everything. But anyway, I just want to share some yarny things that I received that I thought would be fun and y'all might get a kick out of. And so first of all, also from my friend Brenda. Doesn't that just make you happy? Now, I'm not so sure that YouTube will let me play it on here, but anyway, if not, if it gets cut, isn't that adorable. And my youngest grandson's coming later today, and I can't wait to show him that. So that is one of the lovelies that I received from my knitting friends. Along with, I have some socks to wear. And stickers for my journal from my daughter-in-law and from Brenda. And so we'll be seeing a lot of these in the new year. This is my 2024 knitting journal. So I have a little bunches of stickers that I'm going to use, and I will be putting them on my notebook as well. So I got some really cool stickers. And then I also got some yarn to make a sweater, and this will be for spring summer 2024. This is called Berroco Vivo, and it's in 2 different colorways, and it's 100% cotton. And I might take this to Florida with me when I go in the new year and have as kind of my knitting one of my various knitting projects that I will be taking. And with it, I received a couple of patterns. This one is Beryl by Amy Christoffers, and the other one is Cleome by Berroco Design Team that I received from my friend Becky. And I'm on the fence. I've seen this one knit up before, and I really liked it. So after Christmas, I will look at that very in-depth wise to see which one of those is going to be. Now, all of the things that I talk about today, or most of the things that I talk about today, will in a few days, will be down in the description box below, that I can give you links and things like that. So I've got that, and then also then from my friend Debbie, I received Ruby and Roses yarn, and I have never, I followed that on Instagram, but I have never knit with their yarn. And it's Ruby and Roses. Yeah, Ruby and Roses. And so I'm looking forward to trying that out in, she gave me 3 colorways here. And I'm going to leave it in the plastic. But it's called, the yarn is Soft Rose. It is a merino nylon. And so I'm going to be looking for something to work with this. There is 437 yards on each of them, so I realistically could do some sort of faded sweater with it as well, or a really nice, super nice shawl as well. So, so those are some of the knitting related things that I get for my birthday, and it was super fun. Had a super fun week of my birthday and enjoyed it tremendously. And I received a new towel from one of our friends, and thank you, John. And John, I used to golf back in the day, and Fond du Lac, that's my speed. And I do still have my golf clubs, and I might take it back up again sometime. But so I have a new towel, and I thought that was perfect for putting there, and a bag that I will show you in a little bit. I received some other lovely gifts for my birthday, and I will be showing those periodically as they come through. Some mugs and some tea towel, and just a lot of wonderful things. I shared the fan that I received that has come in handy a couple of times. Even though I'm cold-blooded, sometimes it gets a little warm. So I had a wonderful birthday, let's just put it that way. So to give you just a little update on a couple of whips that I've been working on. I won't spend a whole lot of time with them, but the first one is Comfy, and this one's out of the 52 Weeks of Easy Knits book. I am using Malabrigo Rios with it in the Frank Ochre colorway, and it's a lot of rib knitting, but I am really enjoying it. And so it is my project that I use when I'm at the Fiber Universe. So I'm just going to show you. This is where I was last time, where the Progress Keeper is. And so it's slow going, but I'm not minding this rib, the whole thing. And this was one of my lovely gifts that I received that we showed last time. Today I choose Joy, the Progress Keeper, for this. And so there we are. that is first up on my whip update that I wanted to share with you, and coming along slowly but surely. And then finally, one that I'm working on very intently right now is Sea Salt by Laura Ayler. And this has an unusual construction on it. And I have a progress keeper on it from where I was last time. This one here, I am now on what I am calling Body Island, not Sleeve Island, because the way that it is constructed is from sleeve to sleeve, and then you pick up and then you do some things here and over here, and then you come back and now you do the body. So when I get done, it will be done. And so it is all stockinette from here, and has my progress keeper so I can move that. It is done out of Madeline Tosh DK, and I had that for several years. And intent, this is the yarn that the actual pattern was knit out of in the colorway. And so this is one of those projects that I'm not really a monogamous knitter. You all know that, right? But I am, right now I want to finish this. I want to get it off the needles, and so I can move on to some other things, because so I'm becoming a little bit of a semi-monogamous knitter. It doesn't take long for something to do a squirrel moment where I want to go off. But right now, this is what I'm kind of concentrating on here at home when I'm watching podcasts, or when I'm watching podcasts. So that is Sea Salt so I'm working along in that in my PJKnits bag. So those are just a couple of whips that I really, really am working on right now. I want to share some mail call with you. And by the way, if you are so inclined, take a moment and grab your cuppa and your knitting and settle back, because we're going to talk about Hap-A-Long in a minute. And you might as well have something to do while I'm talking. And so, cheers. Okay. I want to talk about something that I got in the mail that I ordered from Around the Table Yarns. It is Grand Shetland Adventure Knits. This is by Gudrun Johnston and Mary Jane Mucklestone. And you know, if you've been around here, you know how on my bucket list is Shetland, to go there sometime, maybe in 2025. Wouldn't that be lovely? And so I ordered this book from them. It came super, super quick. And I ordered one for Debbie and one for me, and then something else that I'll show in another episode. So I do believe I got free shipping on it. And so this has some lovely things in it. I love that in their beginning table of contents, well, first of all, the photographs in here. The book alone, for just looking at the photographs, is wonderful. It has some stories in it, and I love that in their table of contents in the beginning, they give you the travel stories are laid out, and they give you the page numbers of that if you just want to do some reading. And then they also do the patterns in there as well. So I just can't say enough about this book. There are several things in here that I want to knit in the new year. I'm not sure that this is one that I'm going to knit, but I want to call your attention to it, and because it's really kind of a segue into what this episode is really about. But this is called the Verdeck Shawl. This is by Gudrun Johnston. And their intro to this pattern says that a verdeck is a pile of stones acting as some type of marker. The interlocking and defined texture in this shawl evokes a carefully stacked cairn where one might look wistfully out to sea wrapped in Shetland wool. The construction gives a nod to the modern method of knitting traditional Shetland haps, where pleasing little yarn overloops are made to facilitate the shaping, and in this case, to form a simple decorative edge. And it is, I do believe, yes, it is worked sideways in two pieces and then joined, which is fun. That I might just knit this one. It is done out of Jamieson's Shetland Spindrift, which I have some of that in my PYS. And we'll give you a little close-up. This might go on the list for sure. So it doesn't just have shawls. There are sweaters, there are hats in here. Again, the photographs are fantastic. There are socks. It's just a wonderful book to look at. There is a yoke sweater. It's just, there's gloves, if you're so inclined to do some gloves in there. It's just a beautifully laid out book. There is a wonderful sweater cardigan that looks just to die for, to knit on, to wrap yourself around this winter. Like I said, there are several in this book that I am just dying. I'm dying to knit. So I will investigate those a little bit further for sure. So stay tuned. In the new year, there will be more. There will be some more from that book, talking about that book. And I'm looking over here because usually that's where the camera is, and today it's over there. So anyway, that is the segue to what I wanted to really talk to you about today, and that is about the Hap-A-Long that we're going to do here at PJKnits starting January 1st. And this is a notebook that my friend Victoria gave me a couple of years ago, and I believe that it was in a box that they gave me at a certain time that really touched me. And so this is kind of became my Shetland book. Probably things about Shetland, things about packing for Shetland if I'm so inclined. The Berroco's in here, Shetland trips and tips, and so I've earmarked those things at the top. And I have started a section for the Hap-A-Long as well. And so I have all my notes in here about the Hap-A-Long, and so let's just talk about the Hap-A-Long for a little bit. This is going to start on the 1st of January, and you can cast on anytime you want. If you have a whip, like I do, in your whips, you can pull it out and do a whip. That's perfectly fine. You can do a simple hap. You can do a color work. You can do a triangular as the Verdak one. You can do anything that is a hap. And if you're so inclined, you know, if you just want to follow along and do a half and half from Pearl Soho, you know, we'll even take that as a hap, because that's very much in keeping with that. We are going to have a hashtag PJKnits Hap-A-Long. There will be a Ravelry thread, and I will list some patterns in there that I'm going to talk about today, and some other things on there. So, and we'll talk about it here on the PJKnits podcast as well. And so then we will think about doing maybe on that the 1st of January, doing a Zoom at 6 p.m. Illinois time, if there is some interest in that. That is a Monday. And right now the time frame for how long it will go is really kind of up in the air. We may go all year, or we may go for the first 6 months. We're just going to kind of play that by ear for now. Now, there, excuse me, for those who don't know what a hap is, there's a couple of ways, and I should preface this in the very beginning. I am not an expert. Everything I'm going to talk about or tell you about is things purely that other people have already learned and written down, and it's out there in the world. So I am not an expert by any means on these shawls. It is truly just a shawl that I love. It is tied to Shetland, and so kind of that's how it interconnects everything. So I am not an expert, and I will tell you that towards the end here, some experts that you can go out for, really, I believe, some expert opinions, but I am not an expert. So everything here is stuff that I have researched, and I often think in my life, I should have been a researcher, not one at the college where they research diseases, but more of a researcher of facts, of things, history, of things that we want to know about, that kind of research. But maybe in the next life, that's what I will be. But anyway, let's get back to what a hap really is. A hap was a traditional shawl back in the 18th, 19th century. They were big and large. And if you look into the history of it and books, things that are out there, you will see that it was multifunctional, really, if you think about it. It is something that can keep you warm. They didn't have heat like we did, right? And a lot of them had to walk to go and gather whatever they were gathering. And so a hap shawl became something of warmth, something that was worn every day, something that could wrap a baby up, something that wrapped around their heads, their bodies, became a satchel for carrying, harvesting things, I would assume. And so late 19th, maybe early 20th, the hap was a big thing. It also, in Scottish dialect, is what I hear, is it also means to wrap or cover, which makes a lot of sense. And also, it's a simple wrap or a shawl. In some respects, it is simple, but in some respects, it has went other directions as well, and not so simple. Say, for example, an heirloom for a christening or a baby. So, why a hap for me? Again, it connects with Shetland, connecting with the past history. It's hard to explain. The connection to Shetland for sure, but also a time frame when things were so simple. It's a piece of knitting history, and it had multi-uses. As I have talked about my half and half that I had done before, the hap is such as well. It is one that has a lot of uses. A blanket, something around the head, something around the neck, something as a pillow, something to cover, something that you want to hide maybe. And so it has so many uses, and I find the history of some, and in some of the books that I have, that are drawing me, as I did some research on this, drawing me more and more into this type of a shawl or wrap. So there are a couple of construction methods for a hap. There is a traditional one, which they call border inward, which means that they did the borders first, and then they grafted it, and then they did the inside. In Shetland and other places, historically, they used long knitting needles and a knitting belt, because that is, I think, circular needles. And so most definitely that would be something that they had to use. But they used those knitting belts and those long needles because they had to multitask. They had to walk somewhere, and while they were walking there, it wasn't just to enjoy the scenery. It was, you have to pursue and get a product done, not only to perhaps sell or trade for other things, but also as for yourself and for your family. Last year at knitting camp, Jeanette Budge came, and she demonstrated the knitting belt and the knitting needles, and she still uses hers quite often. And someone else who is an expert in that is Denise Bell of Lost City Knits as well. She uses one as well and demos that also. So those are a couple of people who have some expert knowledge, not only in Shetland and Haps, but also the knitting belt. Now, for me, I want to share some patterns. And this was my first, what I want to call my first hap, or my first delve into knitting a hap. My first one that I ever knit was for my first grandchild. This was Jared Flood's Tweed baby blanket, and it's called, it's a Shetland hap style. And this was my first one, and I made a whole ensemble of this for her. This is just a view of her laying on the blanket. And then this is a close-up, and this was pretty simple for the knitting. And I did it. There was a plan in the colorways. It was like a gray and a rosy and a brown, because that was the colors of the nursery. And so I also did. I don't know if I did a easy sweater or if I did a kimono type thing, but there was an ensemble that went with this. So this was my very first Hap-like Hap that I ever did. And I used Debbie Bliss's Baby Cashmere Merino back in the day on that. And so that was my first foray into it. My next real foray, I want to say, or my next Hap shawl came from my my friendship, my meeting of Denise Bell in of Lost City Knits at knitting camp, and they came out with a book, Ultimate Thule, and I talked about this on the last podcast, and was drawn to this shawl, this Hap shawl. My colors that I chose, again, we talked about this last time, came from this picture of rope that Chris had photographed while on a trip to the Shetlands. And so then this was my first one, and it was the Lerwick Harbour Hap. Now, you can still buy the book from Lost City Knits. It has other shawls in it, and I recommend that, but you also can buy just the pattern on Ravelry as well. Mine and Debbie's are knitted out of Foothills Fingering, which has been discontinued. But one of the shawls that are in here, and there's a full Hap, which we did, or a half Hap, and you can do that out of Shetland yarn, which is super, super fun to knit with as well. So there are options as far as that's concerned, and that was such a fun knit. This was my first, let's just call it my first real Hap. It was fun. It was a fun knit, and I'm just going to pan over here to Debbie's. She, as told us last time, she bought the kit at the time at Stitches Midwest and knit hers. I picked my colors out, and like I said, you certainly can change this now. Here is Debbie's. She loaned it to me, and you can see this was fun, this cable that went around it, and then this particular border as well. And this was, we did the center first and then worked out, which is the way I am going to be definitely going for sure. So I just love that. So there is Debbie's. And then this one is mine. Also done out of that same yarn. And again, I'll just show you where I've made mine into a triangle. It's a full Hap, but here's where I flipped it back. So you could go you can get a nice long one if you want, or by any means you can do the whole Hap. And again, I'll link to my project page on this, and so just get it. This yarn is luscious. I love it. It's nice and soft. Again, discontinued, but you can certainly use a lightweight alpaca or the spindrift with it. So I just love this. It's such a cozy blanket. So that was that is the one that I really, you could call it a real Hap. is where I'm going with that. Now next up was a pattern from the Shetland Trader. This is Gudrun Johnston, and she does two. It's called a Hansel. She does a full Hap version now, and also a half. You could go either direction. I purchased this some time ago, and she has since updated them she's updated the pattern so it goes really, if you want a really large one, which I can't decide what I want to do for my next one. So good thing I have some time to think about it. But what I did on this one, and those she suggests the Jamieson and Smith jumper weight. I cast on one of these. Again, this yarn, and so this is the funny thing is, whenever she first came out with that pattern, I cast this on. So it's been a while. Let's just say it's been years. And so I cast on one out of, and this is with the intention that this would be a huge hat. And this is out of, was out of cast on by Cheryl Oberle's Just Beautiful Alpaca. And Cheryl no longer dies, so again, this is a discontinued yarn, but this is one of my whips, and it's black. And so this, and it comes across looking brown, but it's a deep, deep black here. I'll just go back here. So this is in the little, is in the whip category. But I wanted, at the time, granddaughter was, you know, fairly young, and we were driving back and forth to see them quite often. And I wanted something that I could take that was nice and soft, that in the car, because of varying degrees of what we wanted warmth in the car. And I felt like I could cover up with this and wrap around myself while I was in the car, or use it as a blanket, and even use it as a blanket over there, because sometimes in the basement it's a little bit chillier. So anyway, this is one, this is meant cast on way back when to be a Gudrun Johnston Hansel Hap. So, and I still have hopes that this will be, so this may be one that I decide to pick back up in the new year. So you see why I'm saying this may go all year long if I actually finish the Haps that I want to. So okay, next up, pre all this Hap stuff, I went to knitting camp, and I wrote notes down here. In 2011, there was a Stonington shawl that was amongst all of the mini knits. And at that time, we were still able to try them on and wear them. That's since changed, which I totally understand, because, you know, a lot of these knits were done by Elizabeth herself and are over probably, you know, nearing 100 years old, you know. And so you just can't let everybody with makeup and perfume and body lotions and all that try them all on. But back in 2011, I got to actually wear the Stonington shawl in this deep purple. And it was my first thought about, because what it is, they were knit out of Jamieson's Shetland Spindrift, okay? And this yarn is not your alpaca. This is not super, super soft. So a lot of people kind of stray away from it because it's not a soft yarn. But I will tell you, this Stonington that I wore in the classroom for quite a couple of hours, after many years of use and probably blocking and all of those things, it softened up so much. So I'm not as worried about the itch factor as it progresses into a shawl. So I just want to say that a lot of these are done in Shetland, and it softens up. So anyway, I saw this shawl and I decided I wanted to knit it. And it was in this deep purple. I bought the yarn. I still have the yarn upstairs, which I've never cast on. I was going from a Spun Out, which was Spun Out number 18. And Schoolhouse Press no longer has the Spun Outs, but a lot of the single patterns they have now, and certainly a lot of them are done in books. And so I was working on one from the Spun Out. It also is featured, if you have the red book, knitting workshop. It is in this book as well. This was the original book from that Elizabeth did. And if you know Elizabeth at all, or you're familiar, you have to have a little, when you follow her patterns, it is not always just necessarily laid out. You have to think for yourself. You have to be a thinking knitter. So it also is in the updated knitting workshop book as well, with a few notes on that. And so when I finally decided to cast on another one, at the time there was a book that came out. It's the Best of Knitters Magazine's Shawls and Scarves. Now this particular book is out of print, but you can get it some places if you can find it out of print. But also this particular one, and here is the purple one that I want to show you that I originally tried on at knitting camp. And it was called Concentric Circles, and this is in the English tradition is what she has. And again, this was a Shetland shawl. Her notes was, "You have heard of the legendary Shetland shawl, light as a feather, elegant and warm. Anybody worth his salt insists on one from the beginning, and people of all ages find them indispensable, comforting, and beautiful." Mary Thomas gives full traditional directions on pages 187 to 196 of her excellent knitting book, Dover. "I have had the temerity to make a few changes. To call them improvements would be conceited indeed." So anyway, I decided to cast on the Stonington from here. And actually, I cast on the Stonington using several resources. The Spun Out, most definitely the EZ books, and then what I am using for my now is the border from that book, Soul. This is interesting. I want to share this whip that I have here. I don't have a journal page on it. I think I had a notebook that had a journal page back in the day, but I got rid of it. I don't have it anymore. That was probably one of my first journals. But thankfully on Ravelry, I did a project page. And so my project page gave me some information. And I thought, yes, okay. From my knitting journal, I put these things into this year's knitting journal so that I could remember this. And the notes that I had on here was that I bought the yarn in July of 2011, which had to have been knitting camp, right? I cast on July 7th, 2013 with a size 8 needle. I was using Spun Out 18 for the pattern, and knitting it out of Jamieson's Shetland Spindrift, color 929 Aqua. And then I pulled out, I finished it. I shouldn't say I finished it. I put it away. Let's put it that way. And for the Hap-A-Long, I pulled it back out because I wanted to see where I was at on it. So I have pulled it back out, and I have started to put the Stinson lace border from the Knitter's book. I have started putting the lace border on it, and it's going quite quickly. So I'm super excited about this particular one. Here's another whip, and then as you can see, it was a very simple shawl for sure. Using just starting with the inside and working its way out. It's not huge, and I would like my next one to be a little bit larger. And I think I have enough of that purple yarn, most definitely, to make it larger. But anyway, so I've picked that back up. and putting that border on it. So there's another one. You can see why I decided that it was very much needed to do some sort of Hap-A-Long, not only just for me, but for others, right? So that was, so you can see I've had a little bit of a love going on with the Shetland Hap shawl for many, many years, you know, over 10, right? So I have to just say again, using these Spindrift and other yarns, for sure, they soften up. So if you're so inclined to do one out of the yarn that a lot of these shawls were knit out of, I would encourage you to try the yarn for a Hap. Okay, so what is my next one? I'm not sure. What comes first, the pattern or the yarn? Or perhaps, for me quite often, what is my first thought is the inspiration picture. As I've shown you with the Ulthima Thule book, that rope, I knew then what colors that I wanted to put in my first real Hap. Now, also, they were done out of colors that are me. You know, it's totally me. So, yeah, why wouldn't I, you know, go with that particular color? But if I go back to PYS, this is my dilemma next. I have that deep purple Jamieson's Shetland Spindrift that would be wonderful to knit one with. Not super color inspiring, right? Or should I buy some new? And one of the things, when I go back to inspiration, is this was from the Jamiesons of Shetland. I follow them on Instagram, and they will post on Instagram colorways that all the inspiration photo along with colorways that go with that picture in their yarn. And so certainly I have saved several of those inspiration pictures to my favorites on Instagram because I love the colors that went together. And for me, I don't always I don't do well picking out colors. I do well by taking an inspiration picture or a colorway that I've seen in ready-to-wear garment, and I pull that and say, these are the colors that I want to go with. So back in 2022, one of the things that they put out there was an inspiration picture, and here I put it into my journal, and it was this look. The inspiration picture was, first of all, the colors that were in it, the blue, the green, but very reminiscent of what I've got. And this will be an interesting segue here in a moment. And here were the colors that they incorporated. And I thought, what fun. So again, here's an inspiration picture. This is what I was thinking about. Now, also, I've talked about this the last time, is this cover sweater. I totally love the colors that are in this. Not necessarily for the sweater, but for a Hap. I think those would be wonderful as well. So I'm vacillating by all of these things. Should I go with the colors that on my inspiration picture? Should I go with that? Should I keep thinking? Should I do my whip first? Maybe that is the way to go. I also think that it would be nice to do the traditional colors of a Hap, those browns and beiges and grays, those colors that are and traditionally they didn't dye, they didn't do the dyes, they used the yarn from the sheep in the colorways that were there, and so it was the black, the brown, the gray, and so maybe I should go that direction. So I'm so torn about which way to go with that. Now, the nice thing also is I have a bag still of the discontinued yarn from Lost City Knits, and I have 3 of these. So I'm giving serious thought to maybe finding a brown that's of the same weight and incorporating the brown into that and putting using these leftovers, not really leftovers, from PYS, and incorporating this into a hat. I'm thinking that this is going to be the next one, but I just need to go on the search for a brown that will go with this so that I can duplicate that inspiration picture that I have. So I'm nearer to doing this as I sit here talking to you all this morning. So that is possibilities. I am totally torn as to which direction to go with that. So I just want to shout out some resources for you if you're looking for yarn. Definitely Schoolhouse Press. Also Lost City Knits. She carries the Jamisons, the non-Jamisons. Jamisons, and she does Jamison and Smith. Sorry, took me a while, I believe. Anyway, I put that in I'll put that all in the show notes. I know that also Woolly Thistle has some yarns, and then also Wool and Company, I believe, carries the Spindrift as well. So there are resources out there for yarns. I'll put some resources down in the show notes below. So anyway, couple other, just some things that I'm going to talk about here at the end from my library, possibilities that all fall under, again, fall under the Hap category. These are ones that I have in my library. These are possibilities for me. This one is Forest Path Hap. It is by Patricia Ann Fortune. This one's been out for several years, probably about COVID time. So this is a paid-for pattern, half Hap, that falls into the category of a Hap as well. Also, a book that I have, this is the Book of Haps. This particular one, I love this book. This is by Kate Davies. And the thing about this is she does a lot of the history of a Hap in here. You get a lot of good information from here. A lot of these are modern Haps, where not typical squares as it would be. But there are some, like I said, she gives you definitely some history and some old pictures with it. There are some here that are half Haps. There's also one by Bristol Ivy, which is the Harewood Hap. Just doing some little modernization, I think, if you want to say, on the Hap. There's another one. So there's just some good information in here as well. One of the things that she does that I am looking at, and I also want to, for my Hap, and this is why I keep thinking it's going to be year long, because I see myself knitting a lot of these, going down the rabbit hole. And I'd like to try different designers as well and see their take on the Hap. So that's why, at least for me, I think it's going to be an exercise in a year-long Hap-A-Long for me to finish up some whips and to delve into some different designers. But I am looking at this particular one. It is called Mater Dye. This one is very much a traditional Hap, and I love this, that she shows it on a blocking frame, dressing it. And so I'm kind of giving that one, you know, a heads up for me at some point in time, maybe in my yarns that I've got now. So this is a fun book. This is by Kate Davies, still available. Again, the simple shawl or wrap. There are a lot of different Haps in here. So not just your square one. Here's one particular. You can get a feel for it. So a lot of different Haps in this, but definitely there is a traditional Hap in there as well. The next book, this one is Heirloom Knitting Shetland Hap Shawls Then and Now. It's by Sharon Miller. This one here is very much different book. It does not hold your hand. Again, this is one that in my thought process, I say read, digest, maybe embark, because again, a lot of history in here, but not for the somebody who wants to be handheld and fed along. You have to feel confident in what you're doing. So anyway, this one is gives a lot of history, and it gives a lot of photographs, which I totally which I love reading about. There's historical pieces in here, and she addresses the modern hap, which for us is the center first. She also talks about the traditional hap, which is the borders first, and then doing grafting. Not my cup of tea for now. I don't believe so. But this book addresses both styles. She addresses in the book hap shawls of today. In here, she also, there's one in here, it's called Morlag, I believe. And this very much in the colorways. She gives you ideas for colors, possible colors. So it's an interesting book. The thing that also about this book that I like, this gives me some inspiration, because in my mind, I think this would be a lovely type of a shawl to embark on as heirloom shawls for grandchildren's children, great-grandchildren, kind of an heirloom that you would knit on and package up and give to them as they got older, and then they would have it for christenings. Wouldn't that be a fun idea? You know, again, it's a whole rabbit hole to go down to. So particularly something like that. I will share with you next year sometime the epic shawl that I am doing, that we started a couple of years ago, and that really I need to get back to, because it really is epic. And I'll share that with you. It's a hap type shawl as well. So to be shared later on. Just a couple of other shawls that I found out and about. This is called the Feather Knitted Shawl. This is reproduced from the Patterns Archive. Very fun type shawl. This was a free pattern done out of Patton's Dreamtime Merino. And I don't know what that yarn is, but anyway, probably something that you would have to duplicate. The thing that's nice about these shawls, about the hap shawls, they're not done on, these at least are not done on fine. They're done with fine yarn, but larger needles, 7, 8. So that's what I totally love about that. And one that I just became aware of in the last month or so, because Ray from Needles at the Ready was knitting this as well and finished up. And I don't know why I didn't see it along the way, but this is Haplander by Ann Hansen. And I think this would be a wonderful shawl to knit on as well. So just to give you a picture of that. That is a pay-for pattern as well. And done, this comes across purple, but I think it was more of those original colors. So anyway, that's kind of, you know, the Hap-A-Long and Haps and things that I wanted to share with you today, as far as the Hap-A-Long that will start up on January 1st. I hope that you will join me in this particular knit-along, if you're so inclined. I know that it's not one that a lot of people are going to be doing, but I'm hoping that there are some out there. And if nothing else, you will just encourage us along. We'd love to have you along for the ride. Okay, so that is Hap-A-Long for now. Coming up next, gosh, in a week, it will be December 1st. It will be Advent, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do for that. I am going to do an episode about my Advents that I have, and I might do Advent Sundays just to do a quick episodes. I'm just not sure what I'm going to be doing then, but there will be more. We're going to talk more sweaters in the next episode as well. Hopefully I'll be further along on that. So that's all I have for you now. thank you so much for those of you who tune in and for commenting below and following. If you would, please like this video. Please subscribe. That totally helps get me out there for other people. And I love that you're joining our community and we're talking about knitting. Hope you all have a great finish up to your weekend as we go in. I have a little boy coming here shortly to spend some time with me today and tonight. So I'm looking forward to that. So until next time, thank you and knit on. Bye.